Do you favor a $10 million bond issue to restore historic buildings owned by governmental and nonprofit organizations, with funds being issued contingent on a 25% local match requirement from either private or nonprofit sources? So start us off just telling us, what does this mean and how do they get on the ballot?
Yeah, so this, obviously, as the question says, $10 million to go towards the restoration of historic buildings that are owned by a governmental organization or a nonprofit organization. This is going before voters for two reasons. This is the result of a Republican-backed bill. So it was sponsored by, I believe it was Representative Solwyn Millet and possibly Rick Bennett. And the second reason that this is going before voters right now is because the state constitution requires voter approval to borrow any money on the state's behalf. So anytime you want to borrow money to do anything, we got to weigh in on it. So that's why you're seeing it on the ballot.
All right, and do you have some examples of like who might get the money or how it might be spent?
It's been a while from what I understand. I was talking to the Historic Preservation Commission, who will oversee this program, and they have overseen previous programs. Probably one that is closest to this one was back in the mid 80s. They borrowed, I think it was just a $2 million bond for a similar project. And when they did this back in the mid 80s, they distributed that money over a 4-year period. They had annual competitive grants that nonprofits and governmental agencies could apply and to try to get the funding. And sort of, there are, nonprofit groups and arts groups out there that are advocating for this bill because, a lot of these nonprofit groups, they operate on a shoestring budget, and they are often in, these really um, challenged community buildings that have a history in these communities, and finding the extra money to make sure that they don't fall down, and even getting a little extra money to make sure they shine a little brighter. It's harder for nonprofits to do that. So this would free up 10 million. And talking to the director of the commission, he expects it'll be a similar process for this 10 million going forward. It'd be a multi-year process through competitive grants.
Okay, so it sounds a little similar to the research and development bonds. And what about any opposition? Have you heard anyone that's opposed to this?
Haven't heard any opposition to it, not organized opposition to it. So I believe Maine has a pretty good track record when they put bond issues out. So I wouldn't expect to see too much in the way of opposition to this.